Hello everyone, this is CJ with Cycletron. Well, the question for today is, do you need a motorcycle dealer to buy a new motorcycle? I've thought about this off and on here, but recently I received a detailed survey from Ducati. I've owned Ducatis in the past, so I'm on their mailing list. But the survey was about what I go through to arrive at a purchasing decision for a new motorcycle. To what extent do I rely on social media? Do I need to visit a dealer? Do I need to go on a test ride? Just everything that went into making a purchase decision. So that got me thinking about some of my recent experiences too. There's a local Harley dealership to me, and they have a fantastic parts department and service department, but they're complete jerks when it comes to buying a new motorcycle. Not the sales staff, but the managers and things. They want to charge you several $1,000s over MSRP, or they want to run your credit app before you even discuss price on a bike. Things that I don't need to put up with. In my younger days, I bought several motorcycles without test riding them, which is surprising when I think about it, but I think I must not have been that picky, quite frankly. I just saw the bike, I liked it. Maybe I just didn't have that much experience, or I was younger and I was going to be comfortable on just about any bike as it was. So as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more experience. I'm far more picky about the motorcycles that I would consider buying. So I think it's pretty much an absolute must that I would test ride the bike at some point. And some dealers are very welcoming about letting you test ride a bike. Pretty much any Harley dealership I've been to, if I expressed even casual interest in a bike, they offered to let me go on a test ride. Same with a metric dealer near me. I've bought several bikes from them in the past, and I test rode a Aprilia Tuono 660, and I told them for right now I'm not in the market for a new bike. They said, we don't care if you buy it or not, just come test ride it. We know you're interested in the bike. So that was cool. And then you contrast that with the local Indian Triumph dealer near me, and I've been in that showroom probably 15 times, and not once have they offered to let me test ride a bike. Now, probably if I asked, they would let me, but they would probably want to make sure I was pretty far along the purchase process before they let me do it. So I just really don't like dealers like that. But, some of the questions from Ducati were, would you buy a bike over the internet? Could you see yourself using virtual reality to help make a purchase decision? My youngest son came across this website, cycle-ergo.com. It's a pretty interesting website. You enter in your some of your physical dimensions, your height and inseam length, and you select a motorcycle, and it shows you the angle of your elbows, your hips, your back relative to the bike. It's a pretty interesting website. Even as recently as a few years ago, I saw ads where clothing companies had an app where you could take a picture of yourself and you could order clothes to fit based on the measurements that were determined from the photograph. So I could see in the future some integration of an app like that and this Cycle Ergo website, where you take a picture of yourself and maybe you enter in some information about the type of bikes you like or some of the bikes you've owned in the past, and then the site comes up with various matches for you to consider. And if this is offered for a particular manufacturer, they could offer bikes that in their range that would be a good fit for you. That Tuono 660 that I test rode yesterday, there was something wrong with the fueling. Even though I held the throttle position constant, the throttle response was kind of pulsating, so almost like it was starved of fuel. So I'm not sure what was up with that. So for me, I would really want to test ride a bike. But in the past, I've bought cars over the internet, and I've had mixed results with that. I bought a car one time and over the internet, and when we got it, it was kind of musty smelling, like it had a window leak or seal leak somewhere, letting water in. So that was a bad experience. A couple years ago, I was going to buy a used car from Carvana, actually a used work truck, and they require you to have the vehicle insured in your name before they deliver it, even for a test ride. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. But I could see somebody like Ducati, who doesn't have a vast dealership network, really trying to explore alternative sales and delivery processes, where maybe you do some type of virtual thing, and maybe they deliver a bike for a test ride. I think companies like that are really thinking outside the box, and they need to. Dealerships can be a real strength for manufacturers. My local Harley dealership, they're always offering various events where they're serving free drinks and food. I don't need that to make a purchase decision. And I thought, is that going to make a difference for somebody buying a motorcycle? And then I thought, in my own case, I don't get a new motorcycle or trade a motorcycle unless my wife's on board with it. And a key step to getting her on board is getting her to visit the dealership so she could see the bike, see how much I like it, see what the dealer might have to say about it. It's just kind of a whole experience. So if you can use a dealer-sponsored event for free food and drink to get your significant other to the dealership, that's going to be a key part of the purchase decision. I think it's smart. Obviously, it works because the local Harley dealer near me has these events practically every week, and probably at not any minor cost to them. So obviously, they're making money in the long run by getting people into their dealerships, people who could look at bikes that may otherwise not see that bike. And again, the aspect if they have a significant other who's involved in the purchase decision. So it makes a lot of sense. But if you contrast that with, say, most metric dealers, they seldom have these types of events. Going back to Ducati, those dealerships are few and far between. Chances are you don't have a Ducati dealership near you unless you live in a major city. So I think it's really interesting that Ducati's considering these types of things. Getting back to what information do you use to make a purchase decision? A lot of people, magazines are pretty much gone now for motorcycles. So a lot of people are looking at YouTube videos. I look at, there's certain people's opinion that I respect when it comes to reviews of motorcycles in terms of how thorough they are. Are they similar in age in terms of what ergonomics would most appeal to them? If I have a review from a 25-year-old telling me how comfortable that sport bike is, I would probably discount that opinion quite a bit, actually. But if it was somebody closer to my age, it would probably mean more. So I'm sure other people go through a similar process with their buying decisions. So, have you bought a motorcycle that you didn't test ride first? Chances are, if you've bought a used bike from a private individual, that's the case. Years ago, I let selling a used motorcycle, and I let just some stranger that answered the classified ad come ride my bike. And the whole time I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I don't even know if this guy has a motorcycle endorsement. It reminds me of that Allstate commercial where a guy's test riding a bike and dumps it on purpose, the mayhem guy. And that's exactly how I felt. Even though the guy didn't wreck the bike, I thought, man, there was a strong chance that could happen. So there's probably many of you out there who have bought a new or used bike for a variety of reasons and didn't test ride it. I've got a 2019 Street Glide Special. If in a couple of years Harley comes up with some interesting upgrades or new features to a Street Glide, I wouldn't necessarily need to test ride it. I'm very familiar with that bike. The nearest dealer to me for a Harley that I'd even consider buying a bike from is 90 miles away. Well, that's not that far, but it's not exactly convenient either. You've got companies like Tesla that essentially have no dealership network, and yet they're able to sell their vehicles all over the country, and of course other places. So I think what car makers do tends to lead what motorcycle manufacturers will do down the line. And I've commented on this in the past. For motorcycles, motorcycle buying, dealing with dealerships, it's like the phone and the internet hadn't been invented. I mean, particularly with Harley Davidson dealers. Try calling a Harley dealer in advance and getting a price out the door over the phone. It's not going to happen. But I think the pressures over time with declining motorcycle market is going to force these dealerships to be a little more creative, or at least the manufacturers. And I'm not saying that dealerships will be eliminated altogether in the future. I just think the manufacturers need to start offering a delivery or a sales process that may be outside the dealerships. I own a Harley Davidson motorcycle, but I'm not a quote Harley guy. I like the bike, but I'm not part of the cultural scene of Harley Davidson, as it were. And I know there's other people like me, based on the comments that I received to many of my videos, that they like Harleys, but they're not really keen on going to a Harley dealership for a variety of reasons, maybe based on the way they were treated in the past, or just the persona, the vibe that they get from the branding. So I think Harley would be well advised to come up with alternative delivery mechanism or sales mechanism, similar to what I think Ducati and others are seriously looking at. So what do you think about this idea? Do you think it could be part of the process? I mean, Harley Davidson, as an example, has gone from 700 dealerships to 600 dealerships in the United States. I mean, it's still a vast dealer network, but chances are now there's more areas of the country that are underserved relative to dealerships, just based on their geography. So again, I think it merits that these manufacturers look at these types of sales options for their customers. So please let me know your comments down below, and please stay tuned for future videos. Thanks very much.